And I'm Heather Crawford. Right now, breaking news coming into our newsroom just less than an hour ago. After 14 hours of deliberating, the verdicts are now in for two former JEA executives. Aaron Zahn is found guilty on both charges. Ryan Wannemacher found not guilty on both charges.
So here's some new video we shot just moments ago outside the courthouse. You're seeing both Zahn and Wannemacher leaving the federal courthouse in downtown Jacksonville this afternoon. Zahn left without speaking to the media, but Wannemacher spoke. On your sides, Renata DiGregorio joins us from outside the courthouse with the very latest and what Wannemacher had to say.
Yes, Jeannie, Wannemacher and his attorneys were the first people to come outside, and we spoke with them. It's all happening just in the last 10 minutes or so. He said that he feels relieved and he's ready to get on with his life. He plans to go home to his son. They're saying it's his birthday soon. His attorney says that they are just glad that they live in the United States, and this shows why. We also caught up with Zahn and his attorneys as they walked out, but they would not speak to reporters, saying no comment. The prosecution just came outside, though, and they said that they are accepting of how Wannemacher's verdict turned out, and they do approve as well of how Zahn's turned out. Wannemacher's jury deliberated for 14 hours in total, almost double the amount of time it took Zahn's jury to reach a verdict. The two former executives are now, while one of them is found innocent, the other convicted of conspiring to push for the sale of JEA along with an incentive plan that would have resulted in them stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from the city of Jacksonville. The conspiracy charges, one count each for the former executive, stemmed from that scheme, according to the indictment. It stated that the wire fraud charges are because JEA board meetings where the conspiracy was played out were broadcast online. But now, after a month of federal court proceedings, the jury for Wannemacher has sided with him, saying he is not guilty on all charges. However, Zahn, they have found guilty on all. And right before the verdicts were read, both men were seen embracing their family members. And after they were read, immediately after, Zahn slammed his hand on the table and made a little bit of an exclamation, and Wannemacher broke down a little bit. He began crying and put his head in his hands. Next is the sentencing phase of all of this. Of course, we'll update you when that happens as well here on First Coast News. Renata DiGregorio reporting live at the federal courthouse. First Coast News, on your side.
Renata, thank you so much. And of course, she's describing for us what she saw because it's federal court and no cameras are allowed in federal court. So we want to show you now a statement on the verdicts, and Heather's going to explain that.
That's right, Jeannie. We just got this statement in from Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan. She writes, "I'm glad justice was served. As has been said, this was one of the greatest schemes to defraud the taxpayers in the history of Jacksonville. During the trial, we heard a lot about the type of behavior that we don't want to see in our government ever again. JEA will always stay in public hands as long as I'm mayor." That from Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan.
Let's talk now with our legal analyst, Shannon Schott. She's been following this trial very closely. And Shannon, I'm sure people are wondering, we had two different verdicts, but they were supposedly co-conspirators. Now, how did that happen?
Certainly, Jeannie, and thank you for having me. In this case, there were two verdicts because there were two juries. And what happened was you had one jury that was hearing some of the evidence and another jury that was hearing other evidence. They didn't hear all of the same evidence, so they came to two separate conclusions in essentially a vacuum. They didn't know what the other was doing. They looked at the jury instructions that they were given by the judge, and we got two different verdicts.
And you also may be wondering, so how did Wannemacher get off?
So Wannemacher, as we heard from some of the testimonial evidence, was extremely trustworthy, and that's what this process is for, right? He thanked that he was an American, that he was in this process, because there was an opportunity for the allegations to be weighed by the jury with all of the testimony from everyone who came and testified. And certainly those jurors believed that he was not guilty.
And we saw during the trial, Melissa Dykes testified, the former interim CEO, saying that he was one of the most trustworthy people that she had met. That may have made a difference.
Certainly, and again, that's what the jury's there to do. They're there to consider the evidence and weigh the evidence, weigh the credibility of the witnesses, and just look at the objective and subjective feelings of what they experience as they're taking in all that evidence, and they decide what the facts are in a case. And they decided that the facts are that Wannemacher was not guilty and Zahn in his jury was guilty.
So let's talk a little bit about Zahn. He went away, drove away on his own. Some people may have thought, well, gee, I thought they would put him in handcuffs, but no.
No, so this is the trial phase, and this is when they decide guilt or innocence. The next phase of this federal case will be a sentencing hearing at which the government will make arguments about what his sentence should be. We know that it is between 5 and 25 years, and within that there will be a range that the judge decides from.
And possibly an appeal, which we'll talk about tonight at 6 o'clock.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your being here. Shannon Schott, our
Thank
legal
you.
expert. Heather?